Hey, this is Jason Creel, and I wanted to give you some thoughts on how to effectively price your lawn care services. So I'm going to talk about two different categories today. I'm going to talk about pricing your mowing services, and I'm going to talk about pricing as it would relate to a weed control and fertilization business. And the reason I want to separate those is because it's two different things. And I want to more explain to you the theory behind pricing and how you go about pricing, and then you're able to apply it to your specific situation. So when it comes to cutting grass, you got to think, what are my expenses in cutting grass? Now, if you're working by yourself, you think, well, I don't have that many expenses. I'm just, I'm paying for the gas. I've got this lawnmower, I got a truck, that sort of thing. But as your business grows and you begin to take on employees, the labor becomes the biggest expense in a mowing operation. And because the labor is your biggest expense, the main consideration you want to factor in when you're pricing mowing is, how long is this job going to actually take? So I go about pricing in this way. If you think of, what is my hourly rate per employee? Now let's just say that your hourly rate is $60 per hour. Now you're not going to communicate to the customer and say, hey, I charge $60 an hour, so I'm going to time myself when I cut your grass, and then I'm going to multiply that by 60 and we'll give you a price. Okay, that's not how you're going to do it. But you will learn quickly how to estimate how long a job will take, and then you multiply that in your mind, or at least estimate how long it's going to take it by $60 an hour, if that's your hourly rate. Now you can get a little more than that. I would not recommend going below that. And so even when it comes to pricing things like trimming hedges and things like that, you can think, well, what's my hourly rate and how long it's going to take? Now when I say $60 per hour, I'm talking about per person. So if you have a two-man crew, you're looking at $120 per hour. If you have a three-man crew, $180 per hour. So for instance, it may come down to, all right, I've got a two-man crew and we're cutting this grass and it took us 30 minutes to cut. Okay, well that's a $60 lawn, okay, because you just do the math, $60 per person per hour. So it's not always going to be exact, and when you come to small lawns, it's going to be a situation where you're probably going to have kind of a set price. All these yards are the same size, and for garden homes we charge $35, and for these little quarter-acre lots we charge $45. There's going to be some situations where it's kind of a set price. And another thing to keep in mind is prices vary from region to region. So if in your city you find that there's certain kind of going rate in a particular neighborhood, where you're not going to be able to charge 50% higher than that most likely. So you have to kind of balance this out with what's the going rate. But you don't want to be on the lower end of the pricing scale for a number of reasons. One reason, to be honest with you, it's just psychological. If you charge too cheap, you're going to attract a certain kind of customer that you probably don't want. Some people base quality based on the price, and if you charge too low, you may have the greatest lawn care service in your area, but because your price is too low, people are not going to assume that. They think, well, if he's charging it low, it's probably not any good, okay? So that's not what you want. You want to charge at least middle of the road, maybe even a little more compared to what the going rate is, and you want to focus on selling the quality and the dependability of your service, and not that, hey, I'm just cheaper than the other guy, so choose me. So anyway, factor up how long it's going to take you, and then your hourly rate, whether that be 60 or 70 or 80 or whatever your hourly rate is per employee, and then you can come up with an estimate on the mowing. Now, there's some factors to consider here. What if it's my next door neighbor and there's almost no drive time? Would I give them a little cheaper rate? I probably would. What if I got 5 houses all on the same street? Would I cut them a deal? I probably would, because there's other things that are involved here as far as your drive time and all that. The same being said, if I've got a yard that's 30 minutes out of the way, I'm going to charge them a little more because of the actual drive time, or I'm going to try to get some more properties in that area, or I might consider just not taking on that property at all because it's out of the way, okay? So you got to factor in all the things here and make sure that your lawns are profitable, not just overall profitable, but make sure each individual lawn is profitable, because that's the last thing you want to do, is to take on some unprofitable accounts. Now let me switch gears just for a second and talk about weed control and fertilization and where that differs. Now, if you have a mowing crew, you may have 3 people on a crew, and again, your labor is your big expense. Now, weed control and fertilization, it's different. It's a one-person operation typically, so your labor is cut down, and that one person can actually generate a lot more revenue than one person can mowing. But where are the expenses in the weed control and fertilization? They typically come, a big expense is the actual fertilizer or weed control product that you're putting on the lawn. So in weed control and fertilization, labor is still a big expense, and you want to factor that in. The drive time, all those things are factors, but the main thing I'm concerned with is how big is the actual yard, the actual amount of turf that I'm going to be applying the fertilizer or herbicide to, because the bigger the yard, the more of the product I'm using, and that's my biggest expense. Okay, does that make sense? So on weed control and fertilization, I'm pricing strictly based on the square footage. I say strictly, like I said, if it's way out of the way, I might add a little bit more. If it's my next door neighbor, I might charge a little bit less. But in general, the main overwhelming factor is the size of the lawn. So I need to get an accurate measurement of the square footage of the lawn so that I'll then know how to price it. And then I use a pricing chart that shows square footage from 2,000 square feet all the way up to 30,000 square feet. I have it broken up in a pricing chart so that I can look at I've got the measurement, I can then look at my pricing chart and give them a price quickly. So as the square footage goes up, the price per square foot actually goes down. So for instance, on a 2,000 square foot lawn, I'm at $15 per 1,000 square foot. So you're looking at $30, you know, for a little bitty garden home that's 2,000 square feet. Well, if I had a 30,000 square foot lawn, then I might be all the way down to $5 per 1,000 square feet, which would translate out to $150. You see, so again, the smaller lawns in both mowing and weed control and fertilization tend to be more profitable, and those are the ones I try to focus on the most. But, you know, the larger properties can also be profitable and worthwhile doing as well. So I hope these are some helpful tips for you on pricing your lawn care services. Pricing is so important as far as being successful long-term in the lawn care industry. Thanks a lot.